Hello, YouTube. Hi, how are you doing today? So, today I wanted to talk about intelligence agencies. Now, a lot of people would know the, well, the most common one that people know of is the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency over in USA. You may have heard of KGB, FBI. If you're in Australia, you probably know of ASIO. So I just wanted to talk about, perhaps I'll talk about individual ones, but basically I'm just going to talk about the general idea of them. So, starting off with some facts. So, basically, what are intelligence agencies? They're arms of the government. So, in a democracy, they're controlled ultimately by the prime minister or president or whatever the head of state is. By head of state, I mean the leader of the country, or at least their group. So, they're essentially in control. So, for example, in USA, Donald Trump could tell the CIA to do whatever the heck he wanted them to do within their laws. Of course, he couldn't just tell them to kill everybody. Though in some countries they could be told to do that. Certainly in Iraq, when we had Saddam Hussein in power, he was able to tell his intelligence agencies to go around killing people that he didn't like, and it happened in Russia under Joseph Stalin, happened in Germany under Adolf Hitler. So essentially, they're arms of the government, and we have to understand that. So when we're talking about intelligence agencies, we're talking about the government. So we've got a dictatorship. They have a lot more power than they do in a democracy. If they're involved in a monarchy, like England, for example, far from the only place with a monarchy, then they have a lot more power. Of course, in England, they actually have a democracy as well as the monarchy, so it gets a little bit complicated. Perhaps they've got in between power, but anyway, so that's how they came to be. Now, when did the first one start? Goodness only knows. Probably had them in caveman times. I mean, they've always been there. They've always been people. I'm not aware of any time in history when we didn't have someone there that was doing the bidding. They were your right hand man's. Yeah, I'll take care of these people. So they certainly had it in ancient Roman times. They certainly had it in ancient Egyptian times. Um, so every part of recorded history, we've had them, and we've still got them. Now, perhaps I do say a bit about them because I guess I know a fair bit about it. So I know more than the average person about this sort of thing. So I'm hoping to help you out. So what's the main reason for them to be there? Now, they have a number of different purposes. Perhaps one of the major ones today is to lie to you. So they talk about, intelligence. It's in the word. Intelligence is about getting information from other countries or from within their own country, from people that don't want you to know what they're doing, such as terrorists, and they're also hiding that from not only people overseas but our own people. So the a large proportion of what they're doing is lying to us. Okay, so when you see a major news story, for example, let's say the example from last week, the terrorist attack in Melbourne. What happens then when that breaks is that it's passed over to someone within the government, within the intelligence agents, and they'll then look at that and decide, do we need to lie about this? And they make a decision. They make it very quickly. They have a group of people that make that decision within half an hour, within an hour. They have protocols for what kinds of things they'll do and what ones they'll leave alone. And so in that case, as far as I'm aware, that one wasn't lied about. They would have assessed it. They would have gone through it and said, all right, is the truth harmful to us, harmful to the government's aims? And they would say, well, in this case, no, it's not. The truth is not harmful to us. Some cases they decide to lie when they don't know what the truth is. So if they decide to tell a lie, then they'll work out, well, what the first stage is, are they going to tell a lie? Second stage is, what is their lie going to be? And when they tell a lie, they need to simultaneously tell two lies because the public is a little bit too smart to just believe a fake official story. So they'll tell a fake official story and also they'll they'll tell a disinformation. Now, the disinformation is released in breadcrumbs, and there's two ways of getting that out there. So the first way is that they actually create the story itself, and the second way is that they find someone who's perhaps a little bit stupid, a little bit crazy, and they push their story as something that newspapers should follow, that TV stations should follow. So essentially, what they'll do is that they'll create the official story, which is fake, and they'll create fake, the official conspiracy theory, if you like. And you'll see this time and time again. And you'll often see newspapers will go, "Oh, we think that the official story is not true. It might be this. It might be this. It might be this." Of course, by this I mean there's only two stories that they're following. And other people will talk about something else and say, "No, no, 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 no. Let's follow this conspiracy theory." And they'll follow it right to the end, and it'll have some fatal flaw. Now, what the fatal flaw is, who knows? I mean, for example, in 9/11, the fatal flaw in the official conspiracy theory was the idea that the American government would kill its own people for such a minor reward. And not only killing its own people, but killing people from other countries as well for a minor reward. And just not believable. And that's the fatal flaw in that case. Fatal flaws in other cases, they can be that they just aren't possible. Um, and that's what they do. So that's your simple major part of what intelligence agencies do, and it's every intelligence agency. So one part of it is telling this lie to us, to the average person, and they tell it in a way that you can read between the lines and figure it out. So, I mean, I could tell you with every case where there's been a conspiracy theory, I could tell you with a minimum of effort what the real story is, even if it's not in my country. They're not. Once you learn how they're doing it, it's not particularly difficult to work out what the true story is. I've referred to it as the third story. So the third story is the true story. The conspiracy theory is fake. The official story is fake. Now, that's not always the case, of course. It's probably about half the time with certain types of stories. Half the time they'll lie, half of them they won't. And so you can usually tell because there's no conspiracy theory or no major one, no one that is being followed, no one that's being pushed so heavily. Now, sometimes you do get a conspiracy theory that's bullshit, that's not being created by anyone. Oh, sorry, I swore, but it's just some stupid idiot that's created it, and it's not government run. It's not disinformation. It's just silliness, and that does happen too. That's unfortunate, but that happens. I mean, I suppose it's not unfortunate actually, because it makes the intelligence networks work better, because then they'll get to convince people that every conspiracy theory is nonsense and that they're not involved. Oh, what a great lie we've told. So that's great. They love that. What they hate is when there's multiple conspiracy theories that are being pushed. So that's when they get really quite annoyed and they want you to just follow one, not five, not four. And it gets a bit out of control when it's several of them. So that's one thing. The other thing is, of course, is that sometimes the official story can be true. And sometimes there's only one story, and that hasn't had any government involvement, and that conspiracy theory is true. Now, in those cases, your intelligence networks have failed. So if you ever get a case where the conspiracy theory is actually the truth, and then the intelligence agencies have failed. So if that's the case, and there have been cases where that's happened, intelligence agencies have let them drop the ball. They've stuffed up. They should have created a fake story to hide that. And whoops. I mean, it happens. They're not perfect. So that's one side of things. The other side of thing is that some of these fake stories will be found out by the enemy, by say Russia or China, who we're angry with at the moment, or even by USA. I mean, we are friendly with USA, but we don't share everything with them. So some of these secrets will be found by them, and So that's another side of what intelligence agencies do. They're trying to find out these secrets from other countries. Another thing is that they're trying to find out secrets from people within the country. So, I mean, we most obviously think of terrorists, but it's not just terrorists. It's also drug dealers, murderers, organised crime groups, and I mean, bikie gangs, and just people that are doing the wrong thing, doing things that are dangerous to us. And they try to figure it out. I mean, pedophile rings even. They've been known to use intelligence networks to track down pedophiles. So why is that so different to what we see, for example, James Bond? You tell me why would they want to have James Bond appear as if that's what they normally do? Because they don't do that. They don't do that. It doesn't happen. Mission Impossible doesn't happen. What do they do? And that's a question. So were intelligence agencies ever like that? And simple answer is no. They were never like that. They've never been like that. Your intelligence gathering and intelligence hiding. So don't, like, when you see a conspiracy theory, um, don't sort of, I mean, it's very rude. And we heard Neil deGrasse Tyson, I think his name is, that scientist guy. We heard him say that conspiracy theories, if you believe them, then you're an idiot. Look, I think that, well, technically, he's sort of got a point. If he's believing that every official story is true, I'm not going to call him an idiot. I'm going to say that he's got an ulterior motive there. And I'm going to second guess everything he says scientifically. People say he's a genius. Good on him. Geniuses have been known to be evil. I'm not saying he is evil, but I'm saying that's suspicious. That statement is very suspicious. And there could be something to it. Because if you're believing in conspiracy theories, or if you're considering them, then it shows that you're not a complete moron. Now, if you're blindly believing them, in some ways you're dumber than the people that blindly believe official stories. But if you can move beyond that and understand the existence of that third story and can figure out your own, and provided that they're not completely ridiculous ones, then you're pretty smart, and you're probably smart enough to work in intelligence. And in some ways, that's a test. If you want to be working in intelligence, you've got to be able to figure out what that third story is. So, I mean, let me give you a. Oh, look, I'm not even going to give examples. I mean, I've given the example of Pearl Harbor, for example. Well, that's probably not even a very good example. Look, 9/11. There you go, 9/11. Good little story. Now, what's the official story? Is that Al Qaeda did it. The official conspiracy theory is that the US government did it to itself. And what's the third story? Saddam Hussein did it. Iraq did it. ISIS did it. Boom. Simple. Could you have figured that out? Yeah, easy. Well, it's not hard to work out. And is it that far from the truth? No, it's not. You're still dealing with terrorism. You're still dealing with Arab Muslims. You're just dealing with a different group. That's all. And that's what third stories are. They're not normally very far from the truth, or from. They're not very far from the official story, because to make the official story believable, they have to have it similar to what's actually happened, to what people know, to what people can prove. They have to have it similar. And they can't have any fatal flaws with it, well, not any obvious ones. And that's how they do it. So they don't just have something completely the opposite, complete nonsense. They have something that's similar, that gullible people can believe. And then the conspiracy theory will seem more believable, except for the fatal flaw. There's a way that they do it. Now, what else do they do? What else do intelligence agencies do besides find out secrets and keep secrets and tell lies to you? Well, they listen to you. So they have little networks everywhere. They're listening in on our phone calls, on our emails, on our YouTube. On this, they'll be listening to this. Well, if they care, if they find it. But I mean, I have to say this with the expectation that they'll find it. Everything you do on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on all those things, they'll be listening to them. And they look at Wikipedia, and they're listening to those things. Now, they're not listening for particular things. They're not, well, sorry, they are listening for particular things. So if you're doing something like inciting hatred against the government, they're going to keep an eye on you. And if you're just doing something stupid that nobody cares about, well, they don't care about that, do they? I mean, if you're sending little bunny rabbit pictures or swearing at someone or whatever, I mean, Facebook might care, but they're not going to care. And that's the thing. So they look at certain things, and that's what they're doing. And now, then we get to the question of, are they good or bad for society? Now, they've always existed, and you've heard many horror stories about them throughout history. And I mean, obviously, when you're in a position such as Saddam Hussein's like to go, telling them to kill all the Kurds or whoever, killing all the enemies, Adolf Hitler got his people to kill everybody that he didn't like. So did Joseph Stalin. And that's been done by intelligence networks. Even the KGB did some horrific things, also we're told. And the CIA did some bad things in Cuba and South America. And we know that they did some bad things. So are they doing it? Are they helping us overall? Of course, when I had my little theory about aliens, I said if they are coordinating globally for us to talk to aliens, well, that's a good thing. If they're using it to kill people and silence the truth and all that, was arguably a bad thing. And I mean, I guess the thing is, these intelligence agencies are a product of our government. So it really depends on how good our government is. If you're in a dictatorship or a monarchy, the chances of them doing good things is lower than if you're in a democracy, for example. And how stable, I mean, are you in a real democracy or are you in a fake democracy where the votes don't really matter? If you're in a fake democracy, which is effectively a dictatorship, such as Iraq was, and such as a lot of people think Zimbabwe is, if you're in that situation, your secret, I shouldn't say secret service, your intelligence agencies, because they go by many different names, they're likely to do bad things. They won't necessarily, but there's a better chance. And that's the issue. They're an extension of your government. If you trust your government, you can trust them. If you don't trust your government, you don't trust them. And arguably, if you don't trust the government, you should probably be looking at leaving. I mean, if I was really scared of my government, I'd probably leave the country. And I think most people in the world would do that. So that's that. And there's not really a lot more to say about it. A lot of people have some very strange views of it. They think that intelligence agencies do all sorts of incredible things that just don't make much sense. And also, for some bizarre reason, and I just find this incredible, people believe that conspiracy theories are legitimate and that they're the way to stop intelligence agencies. That's actually false when you consider that intelligence agencies have either created them or encouraged them. In almost every case, I'm talking 99.99%. So if you're considering that's the way to stop them, well, I think you've misunderstood the situation. And I mean, it's a pity because a lot of people put a lot of good work into conspiracy theories. They dig up a lot of evidence, and unfortunately, the end result of them is almost always, I say almost, I think perhaps there's one example where it's not the case. But look, they're pointing towards a conclusion that makes no sense. And there's always a fatal flaw. There's something that just, stupid conspiracy theory in the end, and you're like, so much of that was such good research, such good evidence, made so much sense, except for that big fatal flaw that means the whole thing was rubbish. And that's what you get to with conspiracy theories. They're not complete lunatic things. I mean, well, some of them are, but the ones that are the serious ones, that are popular ones, they're not complete rubbish. People put a lot of time and effort into it, and I like to see them. Sometimes I'll read them and I'll go, "Oh, look, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense." And they usually hint towards what the real story is, but they'll have a fatal flaw. And I mean, look, I'm not going to. There are ones about lizard people and flat Earth, and some pretty stupid ones out there, but there's a lot of really smart ones. And I don't think you're complete moron for looking at them, certainly not for considering them. I think that you have to, when you look at conspiracy theories, you have to be prepared to accept that when they have a fatal flaw, that it is wrong. And that's sort of like the next level of it. It's almost like you're going through levels in the classroom and you're saying, well, the first level is to understand what the official story is. Second part is to understand that the official story might have holes and to know what those holes are. Third story is to be prepared to take that leap and to say, look, this official story doesn't make sense. Then you look at the conspiracy theory and you follow that through. And then you've got to be prepared to accept that the conspiracy theory is false. And then the knee-jerk reaction, once you've realised that the conspiracy theory is false, your knee-jerk reaction is to go back to the official story. And that's what most people do. You then, to have the strength to then say, hang on, maybe if we get most of the conspiracy theory, add a little bit of the official story, oh, there's something that makes sense. And that's when you get to that next level. And that's when you realise that they make sense. That's when, boom, you're there. That's when you're there. And look, you can do it for any story. And you give me any story, I'll work it out for you. Look at me. A lot of them I can't be bothered because they're pointless. But certainly there's a lot there that will go, all right, we'll work that out. And I mean, I'm not always certain, but it's usually reasonably obvious, to me at least. I mean, it might not be to you, because people have different ranges of understanding of things. But so that's intelligence agencies. I think personally, I think that they're necessary. They've always existed, so they must be necessary. Are they all good or all evil? Again, I say it's a function of the government. If we can trust our government, we can trust our intelligence agencies. They're sort of similar in a lot of ways to policemen. If you can trust your police, some people don't trust the police, even in this country, let alone in other countries. And they're providing a similar kind of role, but on a more clandestine level. And to say that if you trust your government, trust your police, and don't trust your intelligence agency, why not? What's wrong with you? Do you think that they're? I don't know why you wouldn't. But if you don't trust your government, don't trust your police, you shouldn't trust your intelligence agency. They're the same function. They're the same. They're parts of the same whole. So that's the thing. There should be a consistent alignment there. If you don't completely trust your government, you don't completely trust your police, you don't completely trust your intelligence agency, and that's probably the situation for most people. We're sort of aware that we want to have them be under a bit of control because the potential for the intelligence agencies to do really awful things is high. But they've also got the potential to save the world. And as I said in my aliens video, if we did have aliens here, I would want intelligence agencies to be involved in that because they have the ability and the power and the resources to be able to deal with that safely. So, and again, I'm hoping that is the case. So this is my thing on intelligence agencies. I don't see a major problem with them. I mean, I'll talk about a fair bit, but that's your bottom line. All right, so anyway, that's it for that. I hope that knowledge I've given you has helped people. Not everyone knows what I know about it, and hope I've helped you out to understand it. All right, I'm not sure if I can be bothered with doing all the third story ones, but I might do a few, and just to help you to get some examples going. All right, so anyway, that's it. Bye bye. See you in the future. Bye. Bye.